The listening section of the TOEFL measures a test taker's ability to comprehend conversations and lectures in English. There will be a conversation and 2 lecture-based passages included in this practice. After listening to each recording, you will then answer a few questions about it. You are allowed to take notes of important details while listening to the recording. You may also use your notes while answering questions to help you figure out answers more accurately. The questions will be narrated. For questions that require replaying of a part of a conversation or lecture, you will see a headset icon beside the direction. This means that you have to wait for the replayed part before answering the question. After you are done answering all the questions, an answers and explanations part will follow for you to check how well you did with the practice and to better understand how an answer to a question is determined.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Our next reptile is the alligator. It's one of the oldest life forms on Earth and has remained practically the same since it evolved millions of years ago. There are 2 types of alligators. They are the Chinese and the American alligator, but the latter is much more common. In fact, sadly, the Chinese alligator is virtually extinct now.
Professor Ringo, I'm curious. What's the difference between an alligator and a crocodile?
If you don't mind, I'll cover that in a moment, okay? But first, I'd like to describe some physical characteristics of alligators. Just so you know, most of what I plan to discuss concerns the American alligator. First, their size. Adult alligators can grow up to 14 feet in length. Those are males. Females are smaller, being about 9 or 10 feet long. Males average between 800 and 1,000 pounds, so they're extremely heavy, while females are lighter on average. Alligators typically live for 30 to 40 years, but some captive specimens have survived as long as 75 years. Now, to answer your question, Michelle, most notably, alligators have wide U-shaped snouts, while crocodiles have narrower V-shaped snouts. There are, of course, other differences, but that's a quick and easy way to tell them apart. American alligators are found in Florida and the other states abutting the Gulf of Mexico. They spend lots of time in the water, but they can't breathe underwater. Swampy land is their favorite habitat. They breed in spring, starting at around the age of 10. After mating, the female builds a mound-shaped nest made of mud, leaves, twigs, and other vegetation. It's high because it needs to be above the water. After building the nest, the female digs a hole in the middle and lays around 20 to 40 eggs. The eggs take about 65 days to hatch. The female doesn't sit on the nest like a bird, but she does remain close by to guard her eggs. Small animals like raccoons often try to dig up the eggs and eat them. When the eggs are ready to hatch, the baby alligators start making chirping noises, which attract the mother. She digs up the eggs and helps them hatch. When they hatch, the baby alligators are 8 to 10 inches long and are black with yellow stripes. This color scheme helps them hide among vegetation from predators. Mother alligators also stay with their young and protect them for up to 2 years. However, many young die, and only 1 in 20 survives to adulthood. Alligators' diets consist of small fish, shellfish, turtles, frogs, snakes, and animals that venture too close to the water. On land, they're slow, but in the water, they're quite swift. They normally lie in wait, with only their nostrils and eyes above water. Check out the picture on page 49 in your texts. Look, you can barely see it, can't you? Suddenly, when its prey is near, the alligator strikes and grips it in its jaws. If its catch is small, the alligator eats it whole, but sometimes the alligator must crush it first. This is frequently the case for turtles or shellfish. For larger prey, such as deer, the alligator simply rolls over in the water and drowns its victim. But remember that alligators don't eat that often. They're cold-blooded, so they don't need food to maintain their body temperature. In fact, females can go for months without food while they're protecting their eggs.
Do alligators ever attack people?
Yes, and you should be wary of them. However, they're not as aggressive as crocodiles. Alligator attacks are rare, and deaths are even rarer. For example, since 1948, only around 20 people have been killed by alligators in Florida. In fact, alligators have more to fear from humans than we do from them. People sometimes steal their eggs for alligator farms. People also eat alligator meat and use their skins to make leather products. However, most alligators used by people are raised on farms. Also, it's estimated that there are about 1 million American alligators in the wild. The Chinese alligator, however, is endangered. It lives in the Yangtze River, and it's believed that only a few dozen remain. Here's a picture of one.
Now get ready to answer.
Number 1. What aspect of alligators does the professor mainly discuss? Number 2. In the lecture, the professor describes a number of facts about American alligators. Indicate whether each of the following is a fact about American alligators. Click in the correct box for each sentence. Number 3. Why does the professor mention the size of the alligator's prey? Number 4. What comparison does the professor make between alligators and crocodiles? Number 5. What will the professor probably do next? Number 6. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Do alligators ever attack people?
Yes, and you should be wary of them. However, they're not as aggressive as crocodiles. Alligator attacks are rare, and deaths are even rarer.
What can be inferred from the professor's response to the student?
However, they're not as aggressive as crocodiles.
Listen to a conversation between a professor and a student.
Professor Richardson, do you have some time to spare?
Charles, come in, please. What can I do for you?
Are you, sure you aren't too busy? It looks like you've got a lot of, papers on your desk.
Oh, don't mind all these. I'm just going over my lecture notes for the graduate level class I'm teaching this afternoon. Those grad students are sharp, so I need to make sure I have my facts right. So anyway, what can I do for you?
I need some advice. You see, I'm trying to make up my mind about next semester's classes.
Yes. You register for classes next week, don't you?
That's correct. I've already decided on most of the classes I'm going to take. Here, take a look at my schedule.
Let's see. Economics, that's a good choice. An astronomy class. Fulfilling your course requirements, I see.
Exactly. Plus, I've heard that Professor Mumford's class is a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. He's a fascinating lecturer who not only knows his field well, but also makes the material come alive. Okay, let me see. Yes, I see the problem.
Yeah, it's between journalism and marketing. I want to take both classes, but there's a time conflict. The journalism class starts 30 minutes before the marketing class finishes. So, what do you think I should do?
That's a good question. Let me think for a moment. The journalism class is an introductory one, but the marketing one isn't, right?
Yes, I've been considering getting a minor in journalism, so that would be a good class to take. It would introduce me to the field. The marketing is an upper-level class, though.
So the marketing class doesn't get offered every semester, does it?
Oh, I see. You're right. I might have to wait a year to take that marketing class again. And it's crucial to my major.
Bingo.
But what about the journalism class? Don't you think I should take it?
Charles, you stayed on campus and worked here last summer, right? If you're planning to do that again this year, why don't you take the journalism class during summer school? That way, you'd get to take both classes, and you'd be able to determine if you're interested in pursuing journalism as a minor, too.
Say, that's a great idea. But, are you positive that the journalism class is being offered in the summer?
I'm totally sure. I have lunch with Professor Madsen every week, and he mentioned to me that he's teaching it this summer. So, you're all set.
Now get ready to answer.
Number 1. What problem does the man have? Number 2. Why does the professor ask the student about the level of the marketing class? Number 3. Why does the professor mention her grade level class? Number 4. What can be inferred about the professor? Number 5. Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
But, are you positive that the journalism class is being offered in the summer?
I'm totally sure. I have lunch with Professor Madsen every week, and he mentioned to me that he's teaching it this summer. So, you're all set.
What does the professor mean when she says this?
So, you're all set.
Listen to part of a lecture in a marine biology class.
The deepest parts of the ocean lie more than 35,000 feet beneath the surface. That's deeper than Mount Everest is high by over a mile. At such depths, you'd expect there to be no life, wouldn't you? In such extreme cold, dark, and pressure, how, after all, can anything exist? Yet, phenomenally, life does exist in the ocean depths. Scientists on explorations to these deep areas were astonished to find life down there. Of course, it's not abundant, and it lives an extremely precarious existence, yet life can still be found at the greatest ocean depths. The ocean depths are categorized in several ways. Some terms refer to the depth of the ocean and the amount of light it receives, while other terms refer to the temperature. The deepest parts of the ocean are the abyssal zone, which starts around 4,000 meters below the surface, and the hadal zone, which is only found in deep ocean floor trenches and can go as deep as 10,000 meters. As for temperature, the most important term to remember is thermocline. This is the depth where, as the ocean gets even deeper, the temperatures suddenly record tremendous decreases. Most of the ocean's heat is in the top 200 meters, where sunlight filters through the water. The thermocline can change with different conditions and climates, but it's generally in the 1 to 200 meter depth range. For the longest time, no one believed there could be life in waters deeper than a few thousand meters, and certainly not in the abyssal or hadal zones. Almost all life needs both a source of oxygen and food. How do life forms at the bottom of the oceans get both? First, oxygen in the water comes from photosynthesis that occurs in microscopic plants on the water's surface. The oxygen then filters down through the water. When it reaches the hadal zone, the deepest part of the ocean, it may already be centuries old. As for food, plant matter cannot grow on the ocean floor since there's no light. Instead, life on the ocean floor lives off of what is called marine snow. These are food particles that slowly fall to the ocean depths from the upper layers of the ocean. Among these particles are the remains of dead fish. The second issue concerning how life survives is the freezing cold temperatures and the crushing pressure down below. At the bottom of the ocean, the water temperature hovers around 0 to 3 degrees Celsius, which is about 35 degrees Fahrenheit. The pressure there is over 1,000 times greater than the pressure on the surface and can crush almost anything, like a hammer smashing an egg. One of the main reasons why life can survive in such conditions is that it has adapted. How, you may ask? Well, certain fish have adapted their internal organs to adjust to the great pressure so that they aren't crushed by the extreme pressure. Most fish use air and internal gases to remain buoyant. The fish of the deep use liquids of a biological nature to counteract the pressure. They are also more gelatinous and don't have rigid skeletal structures that could collapse under the pressure. Interestingly, if these fish are brought to the surface, the extreme change in pressure, it often kills them instantly. Another reason life exists at such depths is the existence of thermal vents in the ocean floor. These are places, typically near areas of volcanic activity, where heated water shoots out from cracks in the floor. These thermal vents heat the ocean water, and life forms form around them. Species of shrimp, clams, and tube worms have all been spotted near thermal vents at extreme depths. Organisms at the lower end of the food chain consume various bacteria that come from the vents, and then higher-order creatures consume them, and so on, establishing a complex mini-ecosystem on the ocean floor. Many animals actually thrive in the superheated water. Thus, little colonies of life exist around the thermal vents. Other life forms have adapted in different ways to the ocean depths. Most have larger than normal eyes, and some can even emit light. The anglerfish, for example, has a long protrusion on its head that emits a glowing light. This attracts prey, so the anglerfish then attacks and consumes the curious fish. Other fish have developed feelers, which can reach out and feel for prey. As for mating, some deep-sea fish have developed chemical signatures that allow them to find a mate in the inky darkness. One strange custom is that used by male anglerfish. When he finds a female, he locks onto her with his lips and never lets go. Thus, they literally mate for life. The male subsequently absorbs nutrients from her body as they travel in tandem. What an interesting way to live, don't you think?
Now get ready to answer.
Number 1. What aspect of the ocean depths does the professor mainly discuss? Number 2. Why does the professor explain marine snow? Number 3. What comparison does the professor make between abyssal and hadal zones? Number 4. Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Yet, phenomenally, life does exist in the ocean depths. Scientists on explorations to these deep areas were astonished to find life down there. Of course, it's not abundant, and it lives an extremely precarious existence, yet life can still be found at the greatest ocean depths.
What does the professor mean when she says this?
Yet, phenomenally, life does exist in the ocean depths.
Number 5. Why does the professor mention thermal vents? Number 6. What does the professor imply about anglerfish?